Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. In this video, we're going to go over the build of this outdoor patio set here. It's going to be two 6-foot long patio benches and a 6-foot by 42-inch table, 37 inches tall. Um, had a customer request a matching bench set and a table to go along with it. So these are going to be a little bit of a variation of my standard bench design just to accommodate the height of the table. I was happy with the way that they turned out. Um, so it's kind of, this is a new design on this table. I hadn't previously offered a table design, but I'm always up for new ones and new challenges. So we built this whole set right here. So let's get into it. So we're going to start this project off with just breaking down some of this material. These benches and the table are going to be made out of mostly just pine 2x6s. If you go up to a 2x6, what it lets you do is rip the edges off of it and end up with a 4-inch wide board. And on 2x6s, I anyway typically have an easier time finding some better, clear, straight grain with less defects and not holes and less wane on the edges of them. So I like to use them for these bench projects. And what I'm doing right here is I was just breaking those down into some smaller pieces before I try and run them through the table saw, just so they're a little easier to deal with. So I've got a cut list and I'm just kind of keeping up with it. So I've got these chunked out into the pieces in categories of where they go, and I'm just running them down into that final 4-inch length right here. And one of the things I'm trying to do is to run all of my cuts through the table saw one way first. So I'm cutting about a 1/2 inch off of them on one side, and then I'm going to flip them over and cut them down to the final 4 inches. That way I eliminate some potential for some variation by only moving the table saw fence one time. Running everything through, it gives me a better chance of turning out with a real uniform final product, and it saved me some sanding later. So now that all those are blocked out, I'm going to sand them all down. I'm just starting off with some 150 grit. I'm going to take off as much of the defects from the milling process as I can, and then also from when the boards were milled from the factory. And I'm also just going to give them a light rough over. Um, and I'm not really trying to put a true round over on them or anything, but I am trying to break down the edges on them. That way, they're not so sharp and jagged, and they less chance of splintering or splitting as they come into contact with stuff, and it'll also help them to hold a finish better. Which I'm not putting a finish on this project. The customer has actually said that he'd prefer to do his own finish, so I'm just providing these to him in a sanded 150 grit, and they're pretty well cleaned up. So right here, I'm going to assemble this, one of these benches. I've already assembled one of them off camera because there was some variation between this and the builds that I typically do. So I did one off camera to make sure that I had my angles right, and it took me a little bit of time to play around with it and get the proportions and the lengths on stuff right. But once I got it, I was able to build this one a whole lot quicker and a whole lot easier. So there, I've got this one about put together, the main of it. Right now, I'm setting the seat pickets. I just used a couple carpenter's pencils ground down to the true spacing dimension. And I'm just getting underneath and running some 2.5-inch screws up through a cleat into the bottom of those to keep them from sliding around, but also maintaining that space. That way, they will be outside, so as they get wet, they're not going to um, hold water. So the last piece on these benches is going to be these two armrests. They've got some angles into them, and they have a small notch that fits into the upright on the back. Kind of adds some definition and matches that shape. These benches were kind of designed to mimic some national park benches that I had found online that I thought looked really neat. And they had that same 15-degree angle pretty much on every aspect of it. So that was kind of the thought process behind these benches. So now those benches are done, we're going to move on to working on this table. Kind of the same story. I'm going to break down this material and get it blanked out to run it through the table saw. Um, so this setup right here is the customer that it's going to. He's putting it in a shooting house that he has. And that was kind of the what led to the majority of the specifications for this. So he's going to use this table to sight in rifles and things, and it's going to be pushed up against a sort of fence that's already there. So that was kind of what dictated the height on it. And then the benches were just to match. And then when he's not using it for sighting in rifles, he can kind of push it out of the way and just use it for extra seating when, I guess, when he has large crowds of people there. You could comfortably fit about 3 people per each one of these benches. So it definitely give some more seating space. Um, so kind of right here, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just running everything through the table saw. Now these are some different widths to account for. Some of these are for the tabletop, and some of them for the base. Um, on this project, I decided to get away from as many of the face screws or hidden screws as I can. So as I'm running these through, I'm kind of keeping in mind how I'm going to fasten them together. And right here, I ended up deciding to use dominoes. So I'm using that Festool XL domino cutter. It works really good. The setup's a little bit difficult because it's only in millimeters, so the conversion on that's kind of difficult. But once you get it dialed in, it's quite simple to use. Um, so putting this base together was kind of a puzzle because you've got dominoed pieces coming in from every angle. So it kind of had to go together in sections, and it took me a little bit of time to figure out what was the best way to start assembling this. Here you can see I've got the base is pretty well assembled together, and right now I'm building on the top. So I ran this outside ring first, and then I put my supports in. You can kind of see me bringing it back and forth to the table a couple times. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure that the supports on this top line up with the table, because one of the key features of this is he needs to be able to move it around, and the table worked out to be pretty heavy with the 4x4 solid white pine legs and the true 2x4s. Um, so it ended up with quite a bit of weight in it. So what we did was we made the top and bottom of it removable, just with some T-nuts and some bolts that go up through. And the added benefit of that is when he does use this to sight in his rifles and stuff, if he's going to have a rifle bed on it, he can kind of micro adjust those with some shims or some spacers or whatever. And even if he's got it sitting in a shooting house, even if the floor isn't completely level, he can get the table fairly accurate just with a couple shims and I believe a 9/16 ratchet. So right here, you'll see me pressing in those inserts and crawling underneath it and realizing the mistake I've made. So I pressed them in from the bottom, and then when I went to put the bolts in it, I realized that the bolts would draw it back out, and they actually needed to be on the opposite side of the wood. So off camera on those, I had to flip those around. So now that these benches are done and sanded right here, I'm burning my logo into the back of them just as a maker's mark. Um, the stamp works really well. It's kind of finicky. It takes some getting used to be able to get it to do some real crisp lines and look real clean. But I was real happy with the way that that stamp turned out. So here's a little bit of a walk around after it was all done. I've got them kind of staged. Um, they're final sanded. I've got them sanded up to about 150 all the way around. The customer's actually going to be finishing those, so how they sit here is how they'll be delivered to him.
So now that you've seen the build up on this table and these benches, this is the finished product. I was real happy with the way that it turned out. I've probably got 3 afternoons and a Saturday in the whole project. So I don't know what that roughly translates to into shop hours, but quite a few. So I was real happy with it. I think he's going to be happy with it too. I hope it serves the purpose that he was looking for, and hope he gets a long life out of it. So thanks for watching the video. Hopefully the audio quality is a little bit better in this one. I invested in a decent mic set, so it's currently trying to snow and raining while it does it. So there's a lot of noise in the shop. So hopefully the upgrade of some new mics will kind of improve some of the video quality going forward. We'll have some more videos coming out. I've got 3 or 4 projects to get to at some point soon. So when I start on those, you'll see them here. So if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the build, like, follow, subscribe, drop me a comment if there's anything about it that you thought stood out or was neat or you'd change. And as always, you know, these are our customers, but I can build them and they're for sale. So if you want a set similar, you want just the benches, just the table, variation of the two, you know, we can do any size from itty bitty all the way up to, you know, 12 and 14 foot. So if there's anything specifically you liked about this, let me know, reach out. I'd be more than happy to build your next project. And if you got anything else in mind, you know, woodworking wise, I can do all kinds of stuff, and I'm hoping to branch into some new territory here soon. So, but as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.